Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. Bringing you guys our championship team builder here for the NPA. The Minnesota Vikavolts are taking on the Luster City Pokemon Club and Coach TTrain in the championship match, guys. I gotta be honest, I am very excited to be in the championship here for the NPA. We worked really hard to get to this point after a really rough start to the season. Remember, we started 1-2. I made a free agent transaction, dropped Minior, picked up Goodra, and we haven't lost a game since we did that. So pretty crazy season, you know. Like I said, we had to fight our way to the playoffs late season, and then we ended up as the best team, or the best record and differential in the league total. So that was a really cool way to end it. And then we got the first round of the playoff bye, and then we won our first playoff match, won our second playoff match against some really tough opponents, and now we are in the championships against TTrain. And it's kind of funny because I was a previous GBA champion and TTrain is the PGL champion. So two different leagues champions facing off here to fight for the NPA title. And I really do want to win this match, guys. I spent just a crazy amount of time preparing throughout the last week. I did a bunch of playtesting matches, so I did a lot of practices and things like that, and I think we've got the team that we need to beat TTrain, and it is tough, man. He's got a very good team. He's a good battler, so, you know, win or lose, I'm excited to be at this point, but I really want to come out on top with the W, so I'm going to do my best, guys. So hit that like button down below if you're excited for the Minnesota Vikavolts, and I hope you guys are excited for the match tomorrow. Just so there's no confusion, this is the team build is going up on Saturday, the 24th, and the match will be going up on Sunday, the 25th. Normally, the match would have been going up today, but we kind of just pushed it a day just due to scheduling and stuff. And since this is a championship, we can kind of make our own rules because we're the last two teams to play. So anyway, let's kind of break down his team, what we're bringing. I'm going to go pretty in depth, so I hope you guys enjoy, and you can kind of see my logic and why we're bringing what we're bringing. But again, a very tough team builder. So first and foremost, he's got a Superior, which obviously with Contrary Leaf Storm, 113 base speed, can really kind of steamroll a team if it gets a few Leaf Storm boosts up. So we have to kind of prepare for that. It can be really challenging. One thing I want to note too is like my primary response to Superior would be a Sap Sipper Goodra, and it is possible that he tries to run something crazy like an Outrage Z, like a Dragon Z Outrage on his Superior to try to knock out my Goodra to allow him to open the door to sweep with Leaf Storm. So those are some things that need to be kind of kept in mind. I think he's going to be forcing a move slot syndrome though, so he probably has to run a more offensive set if he goes Superior. I don't think a sub-seed set makes sense with me having a Shaman. So I'm expecting if he does bring Superior, it's going to be like Leaf Storm, potentially Outrage or Dragon Pulse, but I'm thinking that Z Outrage could be really cool for him. And then, like I said, it would likely be like HP Fire and then some sort of maybe like a substitute or something like that, maybe Glare or whatever. The next Pokemon he's going to could be bringing is Gyarados. Gyarados, another Pokemon that I think would be a potential Z user for him this week with Z Bounce. Z Bounce allows him to get through Shaman, which otherwise would give him some problems with his Gyarados, but otherwise he typically runs like a bulky Dragon Dance set, and I have to be really cautious about that because if this thing's able to get up some Dragon Dances, it can be really detrimental to my team. I was testing out some different variants of my team with like Aurora Vaporeon to kind of check it, but if he ran like a Taunt Dragon Dance and Gyarados, he completely shuts down Vaporeon. So I really need to be super cautious about how I approach this Gyarados and make sure I have the proper responses to it. But again, Z Bounce or Supersonic Sky Strike could be really good for him to kind of break through things like Shaman otherwise. He's got a Porygon too, and you're gonna see he's got some really fat walls on his team that are gonna be difficult to break down. He doesn't have the best like offensive options in my opinion, like wall breaking options. He's got some sweepers and Magearna, which I'll get to, but his defensive options are really good. And he's got this Porygon too, of course, incredibly bulky Pokemon. You really have to knock off its Eviolite or Toxicate to wear it down. It can be really challenging in a long fight to beat just because of how bulky it is with recover. The good news is it's relatively slow, so you can kind of work around that. He's got a Sneasel. Sneasel, of course, 115 base speed, really fast, hard-hitting Pokemon with a Life Orb, with Dark and you know, Ice type attacks, which could be really good against my team. I actually think that there's a chance he brings Sneasel this week because its speed really matches up really well against my team, and again, its dual stab can put in some work. So I have to be really cautious about this Sneasel and make sure I play around it properly, because if he starts firing off like knockoffs and Icicle Crashes and Ice Shards, it could be really troublesome. He's got the Druddigon, which I think there's a chance again he could bring Druddigon, and you'll see a theme. He's got a lot of Pokemon that he could bring to this match. Druddigon would be a really good defensive option to kind of stop Infernape with Rough Skin Rocky Helmet or some sort of defensive check. He's also got some really good offensive coverage options there if you wanted to bring that as like a stealth Stealth Rocker over Donphan. So a couple different things there. If he thinks I'd bring like Mix Ape, he might go with Drudagon. If he thinks I'm gonna bring like Physical Ape, he might go with Donphan. But those are his two rock setters, so Drudagon or Donphan. I don't expect him to bring both. He likely brings one or the other, so we'll have to kind of be just cautious around that. But then he's got a Haunter. Haunter is relatively fast. It's got 95 base speed, but what Haunter does is it hits really hard with its Shadow Balls, and if he's fearing something like Necrozma, then he could potentially bring Haunter to try to counter that and just fire off some really powerful Shadow Balls. But at the same time, like, he may be steered away from that just because Necrozma has such good bulk and its Prism Armor kind of allows it to take super effective hits relatively well, and Psychic obviously would blow back a Haunter. So it's kind of iffy, like, whether he would bring it or not. I think if he brings it, he probably has to bring some sort of offensive variant like a Life Orb. I don't think Scarf really would work. I mean, he could bring Scarf too to outspeed like Ninetales and stuff, but I think he would probably not want to be locked into a move against my team. But because I don't really have a Steel type, he can pretty safely fire off like, you know, Sludge Bombs and stuff. Maybe Crook will dissuade him from Haunter enough though, but just definitely an option. The next Pokemon is Magearna, and Magearna is absolutely broken. It will not be allowed in the league next season. There's no doubt about that. It'll be removed from the draft tier list, and it was banned in a bunch of other leagues, and I don't think you're going to see this thing make much of an appearance in league format anymore. It was tested because it was a new Pokemon, but it's way too good for league format, and you could be like, aDrive, you're just complaining because it's too good, but that's really the truth, man. Like, Magearna is, what it does is because of its versatility, its ability to run a multitude of different spreads and sets, it spreads your team building way too thin. Like, and I can tell you guys, I spent a tremendous amount of time team prepping for this match, and like the fact that I have to have like 4 or 5 options to Magearna alone is really, really scary, because that just opens up the doors for other Pokemon to put in work. So in a team building format, when he can customize his Magearna, knowing what 11 Pokemon I'm bringing, there's not really metagame checks to it. It's really, really detrimental. So the thing about Magearna is, again, its versatility, the fact that it can run like so many different sets. He ran it Scarfed, I think, last week, which actually really caught off Kelly off guard, because he was expecting it to be like not Scarfed, and it just like kind of messed up Kelly. But he can also run like a Shift Gear set, which doubles his speed and boosts his attack. Typically you see that with like a special attacking variant, so it allows him to go a lot faster. But not only that, you can see like an Assault Vest variant. Choice Specs Magearna absolutely destroys my team with Flare Cannon, which is another option he could bring. He could bring a Trick Room variant, which actually is pretty feasible, where he sets up Trick Room and then proceeds to sweep with like a Life Orb, or, you know, kind of an offensive Magearna set after he's fast and everything else. So you can just see like me just listing off those sets: Assault Vest, you know, Trick Room, Choice Scarf, like Z Crystal, Choice Specs. I mean, yeah, a lot of Pokemon can run a lot of sets, but not to the effectiveness of Magearna. And the thing is, its coverage options are really good. So not only does it get Volt Switch for momentum, so you have it has to Volt Switch around and get into a pivot, but it hits really hard. Flare Cannon is really hard to switch into. It's basically like a Leaf Storm for fairy moves, essentially. He's also got like Dazzling Gleam, Aura Sphere, Ice Beam, things like that. And with all that combined, it just makes it really difficult to take down. Not to mention its incredible bulk, right? So it's got really good bulk, and then an ability that's a special type Moxie Soul Heart. So, I mean, like I said, I could talk about Magearna all day and how difficult it is to take on, but you'll see that I did my best to prep for it, and we did what we could with the team we have, so. He's got a Donphan as well. Donphan, very bulky, physical, defensive Pokemon with Stealth Rocks, Rapid Spin. I think he'd bring Rocks, Rapid Spin, knock off Earthquake, pretty standard set. I do have to be really cautious about Donphan if he brings it, because he could try to bring like a Heavy Slam variant, which could destroy our Ninetales, although Earthquake does enough to Ninetales that he probably brings that anyway. He's got a Cresselia, just the Moon Duck, man. I mean, this thing is just so bulky, dude. Like, Cresselia is so bulky, it's not even fair. You know, one of the good things about Cresselia, I think, for us anyway, is that we do have weather control with Snow Warning. So because of that, Cresselia's Moonlight is hindered, so it only gets 25% of health instead of 50%, reducing its survivability. He could potentially bring, like, most of the time Calm Mind, like sub-Calm Mind sets are the scariest sets for Cresselia, but I think if he brings Cresselia, I think he brings Dual Screens with Light Clay to potentially open the door for a setup sweeper on his team. So dual screens like Clay. He has the Girder as well, and Girder is actually incredibly scary for my team. I don't think he's gonna bring Girder because I have the Necrozma and I have a couple, like, so many things outspeed it, but I'll be honest, if he brings Girder, I might just lose. I know it sounds kind of funny because it's a Girder, but it's really difficult for the team I built to take on, and I've realized that in prep, but again, I can't cover everything. So, like, for me to handle the Girder, there's only so much I can do. And then Manectric. I don't expect the Manectric to come. I think it could be decent for him, but I have enough things that outspeed Manectric, so he'd have to Scarf it in most cases, and even then, like, it really fails to do a lot. He'd have to run like Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Overheat, and like HP Ice. And even then, I think I have enough that can kind of check it. So I don't think Manectric comes. So in terms of his team, I think we're going to see Magearna 100%, Cresselia 100%, Gyarados 100%. I feel pretty confident about those three. I think we're going to see Porygon as well, and then I think we'll probably see Superior Donphan or Sneasel Donphan or Drotagon Donphan, something like that. Again, I don't think we're going to see Haunter. It's possible. I don't think we're going to see Manectric, and I don't think we're going to see Girder, and I hope we don't see Girder because, like I said, it sounds funny, but Girder would be really problematic for my team just because I can't one-shot it with anything, and any damage I do to it, it like heals it back with Drain Punch. So he's gonna, if he like preps really well, he might bring it and just destroy me, but it is what it is. So you see our teams on the screen. Let's talk about what team I'm bringing and why we're bringing it and so on and so forth. So first Pokemon I'm bringing is our Emma Frost here, our Ninetales, bringing pretty much max speed, enough speed to outspeed Manectric, max special attack, Freeze Dry, Aurora Veil, Moonblast Encore with the Icy Rock. So that tells you right away I'm bringing Hail this week. I wasn't bringing Hail until like last minute. I decided to bring Hail, but I'll explain that later. But Freeze Dry destroys the Gyarados. It hurts the Superior, obviously. It hits Drotagon, Donphan, things like that. Moonblast is nice for things like Sneasel and Girder if he brings it. You know, I can't hit Magearna, so we're 100% wall by Magearna. I can Encore for Cresselia, which is nice, and I can Encore things like Porygon if he tries to set up on me. But again, Magearna destroys us. He gets a free switch to Magearna every time against Emma Frost, so we have to be really, really cautious about how we play this Pokemon and make sure we use it at the right times. Pretty straightforward. The next Pokemon we're going to bring in is our Rafiki. I said that really weird because I was like mid-yawn, is our Infernape here. I'm bringing Choice Scarf, Iron Fist, Jolly, Infernape, and the reason why I'm bringing Choice Scarf Infernape is because it outspeeds Magearna at +2, which is really, really crucial. So if he does go like Shift Gear Magearna, I can check that with Infernape and Flare Blitz it. The other nice thing about Scarf Magearna is it outspeeds Gyarados at +1, so I can check that and Thunder Punch it. We also are able to just hit really hard against things like Superior. We outspeed that. So if he brings Magearna, Gyarados, Superior, then this thing's awesome. If he doesn't bring those things, then it's not as good. But I know he's gonna bring Magearna, so checking Shift Gear Magearna so I don't get swept by that thing is worth it in itself, I think, for you know, Infernape. So I kind of felt like Scarf was the way to go. And again, also like if he brings like Scarf Manectric, it helps. Scarf Haunter, things like that. So again, Drotagon, stuff like that, we like really messed it up, but it also serves as an offensive check to Sneasel too. So a couple things there. The next Pokemon we are gonna be bringing is our Crocodile. So Crocodile is going to be our next Pokemon, and we're bringing basically enough speed to outspeed Gyarados. We got max attack, a little bit of HP, knockoff, Earthquake, Taunt, Thunderfang. I decided to go with Taunt over Stealth Rocks last minute last night, so I actually am not running Stealth Rocks this week. He's got a couple weaknesses to Rocks like Gyarados and Sneasel, and normally you want to build with Rocks, but to me, if I have a chance to stop his Rocks instead of bringing my own Rocks, I think it's better to stop his Rocks personally, just because I feel like Rocks hurt me more than they hurt him, especially since he has a Rapid Spinner and Donphan. So I'm bringing this to basically taunt the Donphan in a lead matchup and also taunt Cresselia from setting up screens. I think those two things are pretty useful for me, being able to potentially stop him from setting up. We've got the knockoff there otherwise, just to kind of weaken potentially the Cresselia and also get rid of an Eviolite on the Porygon. Earthquake hits really hard against Magearna. We kind of have to carry it for that. And then Thunderfang is really cool for the Gyarados as it does one-shot non-bulky Gyarados, has a chance to one-shot bulky Gyarados. And you see we have the Pasho Berry there, which reduces the power of water-type moves. So if he does bring like a Dragon Dance and Gyarados, which I'm fully expecting, I can take a Dragon Dance, I can switch this thing into the Dragon Dance, and I can Thunderfang him. I can switch it into a Waterfall, live the hit, and then Thunderfang him. So we have a couple different options there that I really like about Crook, and I think it'll be a really good set for us. Again, I was debating on items, and I had Roselli Berry on this thing, but it really wasn't going to take a Flare Cannon from Magearna anyway, so Pasho Berry made more sense to be able to live hits from the Gyarados. So that's kind of like a really direct response to Gyarados, and just in general to kind of hopefully stop him from setting up Rocks and maybe knock off a few items and pressure the Magearna with Earthquake. The next Pokemon we're bringing is going to be our Vikavolt. I want to ride and die with Vikavolt. I told you guys that, and we are bringing a modest Choice Specs Vikavolt, but this is a very specific Vikavolt. It is modest nature with 29 speed IVs instead of 31, which means we are going to be slower than Magearna by 1 point. So if he brings Trick Room Magearna, we will be faster than Magearna in Trick Room with Vikavolt, which is kind of cool. It's my response to Choice or Trick Room Magearna, because like I said, you have to check for everything. Scarf Magearna, I got Infernape. You know, Shift Gear Magearna, I got Infernape. You know, Trick Room Magirna, I gotta bring Vikavolt. It's like, it's crazy because of the things that it can run, and like all the sets it runs can be really effective. So I had to bring Vikavolt. We got Bug Buzz, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Hyper Beam. Didn't really need a 4th move because I'm Specs, so Hyper Beam was kind of cool in the sense that like late game, if I have to make a prediction between Bug Buzz and Thunderbolt and I don't know which one to pick, I could just click Hyper Beam and get a kill. So as long as it doesn't grant him a free setup opportunity. But Bug Buzz just rips through his team, obviously destroys Cresselia even behind a substitute. Thunderbolt really puts in some work. He doesn't have the best switch into this thing, and I have a lot of HP investment, like pretty much max HP, a little bit of special defense. So I know I can take hits from things. I can take a hit from Magirna, I can take a hit from Superior. You know, we can, if we get a little chip damage on the Porygon, depending on a spread, we might actually be able to 2-shot the Porygon with Bug Buzz or Thunderbolt, so that's really nice. We can pressure things like Druddigon and Girder if I have to. This is like my primary wall breaker, man. Choice Specs Vikavolt can really put in some work, like I said. But again, we have to make the right prediction. So his likely response to this thing defensively is probably Donphan, which gets 1-shot by Bug Buzz. So I know it's got Sturdy, but it gets 1-shot by Bug Buzz. So that's really cool. And again, we have to be a little cautious because like Magirna can switch into the Bug Buzz for free. So I have to be very careful there. But otherwise, like he's got a couple things, like I can't just lock myself into Thunderbolt or Bug Buzz. Like I have to make the right prediction, but if I nail the prediction, this thing will rip through his team. So I'm really excited about this Vikavolt. The next Pokemon we're bringing is Slime Shady here. Modest, basically the Assault Vest set, but without Assault Vest. I was gonna run Assault Vest, but I changed it again because I didn't really think it was that necessary. The main special attackers he has are Magirna and Superior, and potentially Cresselia, but Cresselia is not too big of a special threat because it's relatively weak and it would run Psyshock anyway. So to me, like the Assault Vest wasn't that super duper useful. So I kind of like the Roselli Berry, which allows me to live a Flare Cannon or a Dazzling Gleam from Magirna better than the Assault Vest would, and then I can fire back a Fire Blast, which is really nice. So we've got that as an option. I've got enough speed on this thing to outspeed min speed Cresselia by like 1 point. So if he brings Cresselia and doesn't put speed on it, I can outspeed it with Slime Shady, which is really nice, and Toxicate. We can also Toxic the Porygon to help wear that thing down. And obviously Thunderbolt's there for Gyarados, and Fire Blast is there for Superior, and obviously for Magirna, and then Dragon Pulse just to hit things like Donphan and stuff. We do break a fully physically defensive Cresselia sub with Dragon Pulse as well, guaranteed, but nevertheless, that's our team for that, or with Goodra. And then last but not least, like I said, I had Vaporeon on the team, but I really didn't like it if he brought like Taunt Gyarados, Superior ripped through it, Magirna really ripped through it. Vaporeon was just too passive for the team, and I didn't think it was going to be good. I think it was actually going to potentially cost me the match. So I decided to go with Sandslash at the end there. And Sandslash is going to be awesome, dude. I realized that with TTrain's team, the way you beat his team is you have to have an opportunity to set up on him, and then you have to sweep him. And I think that Sandslash gives us that opportunity. So we were Adamant Slush Brush. We have enough speed to outspeed Gyarados at +1, which also means we're going to outspeed like Druddigon and things like that just by default. Outside of Hail, we have 8 turns of Hail. Hopefully get the Aurora Veil up. And Swords Dance, Icicle Crash, Earthquake, Shadow Claw. That's our set. Groundium Z will one-shot most variants of Magirna. You know, if we get a Swords Dance up, we can really rip through his team, and that's really the plan, guys. Like I can take on his priority, like his Ice Shards. He doesn't really have a ton of priority outside of like Mach Punch and Girder, which again, if he brings that, is going to be just such a huge problem. Obviously Magirna is really scary for Sandslash, but it does give me at least a fairy resistance, so I can switch this in. Not very well, but it can switch into Magirna if I needed to. It also makes the Haunter double think it's Sludge Bombs and stuff like that, but really if I can get the Hail up and I can get this thing in against something like Cresselia and set up a Swords Dance or 2 Swords Dances, we could potentially win the game from that point in time with Hail up, because obviously Hail will provide the chip damage we need. It'll give us 8 turns of speed basically to set up those Swords Dances. And again, Shadow Claw can rip through Cresselia as well if we get some Swords Dances up. It's like a 2 or 3 hit KO. With Hail it's a little tricky, but I think it could be like a 2 or 3 hit KO with Shadow Claw. High crit move too in case he sets up screens. Earthquake, like I said, is for Magirna. Icicle Crash will be able to beat the Gyarados, and we can set up in front of Gyarados too in theory, because like Gyarados most likely runs like Waterfall, Bounce, Dragon Dance, and maybe some other move if he brings it, if I'm not mistaken. So we actually probably can take hits from the Gyarados as well and set up in that thing's face, and we can set up in Porygon's face too, unless he brings like HP Fire or something. So because of his defensive Pokemon, like I really had to take an opportunity, since he's got such bulky Pokemon, to get a Pokemon in there, can set up some Swords Dances and try to sweep. So that's our strategy, guys. Longest team builder all season. You know, we really have to try to get the right predictions going. It's gonna be a tough match, guys. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. We're gonna have to make some serious plays, man, but I think we have a good strategy in mind here. I think with Vikavolt to break, we've got Infernape in the back as a Scarfer to kind of clean up at the, you know, mid-late game. And then, you know, ultimately, if we get an opportunity to, which I think we could, is set up that Aurora Veil, potentially lock something into Encore with Ninetales, and then fire into Sandslash and start Swords Dancing up, and hopefully sweep from there. So that's gonna be the plan, and hopefully it'll come to fruition, and hopefully we'll be your NPA season champions. But either way, guys, I hope you enjoy the team builder. I hope you enjoy the match going up tomorrow. Should be a lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching and supporting the Vikavolts. That's gonna be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'll go by aDrive, and I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace.